Okay, so second VOD review of the night: Team Liquid versus TSM. Now, this is a game I haven't watched. I'm pretty aware of the draft. I know people have a lot of issues with how TSM approached this one, but I actually have some issues with how they have issues. So let's see if that actually manifests in the real picks. Because I only skimmed over it, didn't want to spoil anything. But I know people have very strong views on TSM's approach here, and I'd like to see it firsthand. So let us get in there, start it up, jump forward a bit. So, first round, Yumi blue side ban to me seems like a very unfortunate one. It might just be that you want to play a specific flex champ, and it is Team Liquid, so expected that um, expected that they will be banning flex laners more than TSM would. In fact, it's 2 for 2 here. And the only one remaining is Aurelia. That's going to be a lower ticket one. This does feel like a bit more of a MSI draft in this particular game. Yeah, Spawn, absolutely. You throw your thoughts here as well about the draft. I haven't seen how it plays out. I haven't seen this draft with pick order, so I kind of want to watch and understand it. So we got 3 of the 5 flex champions banned. The Aatrox banned as well. So that leaves Silas and Jace. So Silas escaped my mind. And that obviously will be the first pick here. So this makes perfect sense from a TL perspective. Because it's Broken Blade, Aurelia is a first round champion. So we should, I guess, include it there. When you have a player like Wander or a player like Broken Blade, then the Aurelia jumps up. And Bjergsen himself is a good Aurelia player. Arcadian taking Galio here is a little bit surprising. Now, Zaya Rakan is, to me, the god tier duo lane on this patch. And they're going to be leaving Zaya Rakan up. Our TSM. This is fine if you want to play bot side and just kill Zaya Rakan, kill Rakan a lot. I think that's usually the way you want to go here, is you want to all in on Rakan and play bot side, but that's also the TL playstyle natively, is to play bot side. So you do feel like you're going to get a counter gank if you do try to play bot side. Rakan. So that part's no surprise. Like, TL have a really strong draft already. Silas flex laner. They actually have a flex pick they play in both lanes, which is, of them, they could play Rise Top, but I don't think it works for their style. I guess Jace would be that, but we just don't see it that often. So I feel like Silas fits their style, and I think Zaya Rakan is strongest bot lane on patch. AD carry wise here is kind of an intriguing scenario here of where you want to go. Kai'Sa Galio is what MSI teams were playing, and I think that really does let you play bot side and just burst Rakan, because 1 CC rotation and passive proc, and he's basically dead. Sejuani here is kind of a weird one. Now, if you're going to take a champion that has bad matchups, you can double ban them. So red side third pick is probably the most play to do it. Like, this is a comp right now that kills one person. It's one squishy that dives in. So someone like a Rakan can actually be taken down pretty reliably by this. Aurelia and Sejuani have really good synergy. So you are able to proc the Sejuani passive so fast with melee laners like the Aurelia. Same reason that Aurelia and Braum can have good synergy here. Now, it's with Jarvan up. So Jarvan's up. Jarvan is up. Rek'Sai is up. Rek'Sai obviously nerfed. Jarvan nerfed. Very interesting to not see Jarvan here because it's so obvious. If you're asking me why, it's possible the damage type there is relevant because they have an Aurelia in this game. When it comes to damage types. So someone like Elise, for example, or an AP jungler might have been considered. They want a tank jungler. So if you see Sejuani here, you're almost 100% certain the AD carry is going to be something like Sivir. Because if you're going to go the Sejuani, it's going to be a tank jungler that doesn't do a lot of damage. You need your AD carry to be doing a lot of damage. So you need a high damage AD carry to make this work. It's very unlikely that you go Lucian, Sejuani, Galio, Aurelia. That's kind of a strange approach to it. And the only kind of thing that Sejuani has with the two other picks, apart from just crowd control, which obviously a lot of junglers can provide, is the synergy with the Aurelia. It's not revealed yet if it's Aurelia top or mid. Your first thought again is top because Broken Blade. But then you kind of gave up Zyra Khan for free. So it's a bit confusing why they've gone for first round Sejuani and not first round AD carry, you know? So definitely I understand where some of the thoughts are here. Should be worth noting, we don't expect drafts like this on 9/11, which is what I imagine the LCK is being played on this week, because the Galio nerfs are live for that. The Galio nerfs are not live for this patch. We fast forward through this. So they ban out the creme de la creme of the jungle picks. But remember, you're banning Rek'Sai, Jarvan, but you've already shown Sejuani. So Sejuani has a lot of different answers that you can go to. Like, for example, this is Invictus Gaming, is lock in Kayn and just run away with the game here. Zac could be considered, obviously, and this is a matchup we saw a lot. Like, you can go a lot of different ways, and Sejuani as a jungler has a lot of different answers. You can also just pick a winning matchup like Olaf. Like, yes, of the tank junglers, Sejuani was the best at dealing with Olaf, but it's a pretty free Olaf pick, and it's not like you win against Olaf. You just mitigate Olaf better than other junglers. So the value in the jungle pick here is a little bit questionable. The Sivir's ban. That's a good ban from the side of Team Liquid. Like, you're thinking scaling auto attack damage threat from Sven when you see the Sejuani. The Ezreal hover here makes it. Oh, the Ezreal lock-in. I didn't even know he played Ezreal in this game. Ah, beautiful. That's the way you do it, baby. Just lock in that Ezreal. The Ezreal it's very muddied, the kind of comp you're running here from TSM, because you see Sejuani priority and you think, why? And then the Sivir ban removes Sivir, which to me is the really obvious choice here. Galio Sivir is not fantastic against Zyra Khan by any means, but you can just try to wave clear against it and give up lane control and have happier times to go. Ezreal Galio is a bit of flexibility. It means that Galio after 6 can look for some roams. You can still all in with Sejuani bot lane focus, but you never want to play around the Ezreal lane. You draft Ezreal to play elsewhere. So, okay, that could happen, but then why did you give Zyra Khan is kind of the full thought we're having in this particular case. We'll see what TL wants to approach here on their side. Because they so far have kind of a best-in-class draft, so they can just basically go whatever they want. NA Olaf, something we love to talk about. We finally saw NA Olaf win in playoffs. Shout out to NA Olaf. No longer a point of scorn for the side of TL. The mid lane blind pick here is interesting. Because, like, you look at the enemy team and you're like, this only makes sense if he's camping mid or top. So it could definitely be Aurelia Sejuani mid lane. Could be an Aurelia getting a Sejuani camp top side. What do you pick here? Because if you pick something here that's safe blind, like a Syndra, and you get camped, like, you can actually just get camped out of a game with some picks. If I look at what's up, could just take a top laner if you wanted. Could go for something like a LeBlanc mid lane. You can go double AP here because you have an AD jungler. What do you take? It's patch 9.10, remember, so not all the latest nerfs. And they just go for Sylas mid, Kennen top. Okay. Ultra safe, ultra reliable, strong engage, good follow-up. It's very good for Olaf, this pick here. The guarantee on this is that we've already talked about how Silas has basically effortless priority in mid at levels 2, 3, so Olaf can invade onto Sejuani there. Kennen has priority on Aurelia for a lot of the matchup if he's able to dodge skill shots, and it could be another matchup. But Kennen's ability to push also here is strong. Nico is picking up in a lot of other regions. LPL, for example, is blinding Nico a lot. We're seeing Nico first picks in the LPL. I think Nico would have been priority on the most things because you can go on hit against Aurelia or AP against a lot of the mages. But I think the Kennen is fine from Impact's side, right? I think Kennen fits just fine. And then it's just on to TSM, who's almost certainly drafting a mid laner here. I already know they lock in Azir, because I know that was the point of Scorn in this game. And it almost feels like the Azir or the Vladimir that they probably would have been considering as well, they both fit that same sweet spot of consistent damage that they lost with not being able to draft the Sivir. And you end up with what ends up being a pretty obvious scaling draft, right? And that's something that I know has got criticized a lot, but I think scaling drafts are almost a little bit misunderstood and underappreciated in the current meta. I think, you know, I'm one of the reasons for that. You know, my scaling is the S word, scaling is a dirty word. But let's get into game a little bit and talk about why. With nameplates on, I like TSM taking a scaling draft against Team Liquid. That's just a straight up point from me. I actually really like taking scaling drafts against Team Liquid. And that's the same thing and the same approach that other teams took against SKT at MSI. And I think that's also just a really interesting thing to talk about, because I think everyone has come up and said, why did you bother even reviewing this game? It's lost in draft. And I think that's a very dangerous way to look at something that's much less simple than just that. Why do you need a scaling draft for Steel if you can just beat them in 18 minutes? We got some high tier advice coming here in the chat there. Big match feel here. Oh, baby. Is that correct? Is it actually Unsealed Spellbook on Broken Blade? I assume not. I assume these are wrong again. I don't actually know, though. It might be. There we go. There's the correct runes. So, a lot of NA and just in general fans have had a lot of problems with TSM's approach to this game. And the reason for that is, if you ask PapaSmithy, who has priority topside cannon in the early game especially, pre-1 item, who has priority in the jungle? Clearly it's Olaf against a tank jungler. Who has priority in mid lane? Silas definitely has priority early. Who has priority in bot lane? Definitely TL, unless TSM can get a quick level 2 and then maybe get a jungle gank or cheese off it. So in a vacuum, that's a lot of priority to give to Team Liquid, right? And I think that's something that is largely something you want to avoid. Giving over multiple priority lanes and then getting snowballed on is so easy to be like, why do they draft losing lanes and lose? GG. And against certain teams, absolutely, that is enough to be a complete black mark on your draft, and it's a bad preparation. But I was struck by what Caps talked about in his interview after the SKT series. They were asked about their Game 3 draft, where if you remember, G2 took Azir mid lane and took a scaling comp in general, and then lost. And the question basically was, why did you guys take the Azir? That's seen as a champion that's out of meta here because it's not a fast early champion. And Caps basically responded, well, we didn't think that SK Telecom would be able to punish us for taking a scaling draft because they don't play so proactively or explosively in the mid game, let's say. And if they didn't push ahead in the mid game, then they'd lose to our scaling. So it's the correct thing to do against a scaling team. And I actually think that logic against TL holds a lot of water. I don't think that TL are very good at, in the mid game, taking a small advantage and finding a massive one. I think just like Korean teams, they will often get smaller and smaller advantages, and eventually those add up, right? A rolling stone gains moss. But I don't think they, 15-57 someone like Invictus Gaming did against SKT. I don't think they just blow up games particularly. I think TL takes it slow and steady. So I think if TSM say, let's outscale them, and then if TL's TL, we win because they can't punish us enough in the mid game, I don't think that's a wrong read against TL. I think that's actually a good read for TSM. So that's why, while the draft is kind of unconventional and that I don't really get the Sejuani into Ezreal, that's kind of a little bit all over the place when it comes to the AD carry pick here. I think it's a little bit kind of peculiar. I don't just look at the TSM draft and say this game is lost in draft. I think they're trying something that actually has some merit. Now, I haven't watched how the game plays out, right? I haven't. But there are very few teams in the world you feel kind of okay giving a scaling advantage to that are also contenders for their region. But I think TL does fall into that camp where giving them proactivity doesn't scare you as much as other teams. I think against C9, you're a lot more scared to have this draft as TSM than you are against TL. So that's just why I saw so much blowback about the draft. And I feel like with nameplates on and all things on the table, I actually don't hate TSM's draft against TL. But let's get into the game. So deep vision is so important against an Olaf. They actually have no deep vision here. Level 1, obviously TL have Silas, which is one of the strongest level 1 champs. They have the threat of Rakan, which is also scary. And Olaf is either first or second best level 1 champion. Maybe Braum would be number 1 because passive is so broken, but Braum and Silas are up there. Braum, Silas, and Olaf. TL can do a lot of stuff when it comes to, right? They just want to get pathing information. They see Sven, that's a bit of pathing information. This is smart by Arcadian, by the way. So Arcadian goes back, gets his sweeper, but notice he doesn't go into lane, even though it's a minute in. Because the moment Arcadian reveals which quadrant of the jungle he's on, Olaf can easily put on the fly together a path to take advantage of the Sejuani. If Sejuani is predictable, Olaf's fast clearing plus 1-axe just getting Sejuani to book it out of the jungle means that you can very easily snowball lead super hard with any early information. So it's very smart from Arcade and just chill in the mid lane. You want to wait for people to get into lanes, and then you finally will jump out of the area he's in. And I don't believe spotted by a ward. That ward over doesn't spot the top side's leash. They only know now. There's no way to obfuscate it forever. But the moment that Kennen doesn't see Aurelia, you know Sejuani's starting red buff. Because there's no Krug spawn. You already have deep ward at blue buff. This is where you have full information about how long it's going to take Sejuani to clear the camp. Because Aurelia did give a leash, etc. So good warding plan from TL, but if you're going to play all-out defense, and as TSM's comp, you don't really have the luxury of trying to fight for level 1. Either you go for a 4-man invade and try to pull off a cheese, but the moment you come up with a fan-out defense, TSM get the most defending they can get. Other small point for the scaling in terms of the jungle pick here. Remember, the suspicion is that more selfish level 6 junglers should have an easier path towards relevance now that the scuttle fights at 2 minutes are no longer there. So I'm just most interested to see the moment you wave a white flag and say, we're going to outscale you, Team Liquid, how good are you at playing safe scaling? So far, we like Sejuani chilling in the next to the inner turret in mid and not revealing which side she's on. So far, she's getting both of her big camps. So far, TSM and Bjergsen actually finding a timing to put down a Raptors ward, which both tells him that Olaf has cleared the camp, but also that Olaf is probably on a recall or topside the map, and thus Sejuani can get her blue buff unanswered. Like, so far, it's actually pretty safe scaling from the side of TSM. And as this game goes on, like, in a perfect world, if TSM just farmed till 25 minutes, Aurelia actually has a winning matchup against both Sylas and Kennen. Wit's End here is like mega value on the Aurelia. The Azir can consider Wit's End, but even just Azir going normal build has team fighting, but also some wave clear options against the enemy. And also, obviously, Azir has the 5v5 scenario. But you need to be able to perfectly play through scenarios like this, for example. We don't have the vision toggle like we did in game number 2 between C9 and FlyQuest, but Azir is clearing minions under the turret. No idea where Sylas is. Maybe on a recall, maybe not. We know that Sylas is less than half mana, so could be on a recall. No idea where Olaf is because the ward on the Raptors doesn't actually give them information on that. The only camp on the map are, for full information with map hacks, is Gromp and Krugs, but Xmithie going to Krugs here is not unexpected, but is Xmithie going to Krugs to contest Sejuani, or are they 3-man turret diving top? It's not something TSM have the luxury of knowing because they went the scaling approach. You can't do everything. You can't go scaling and also have full information. Good deep control ward. Turret dive here is actually not that easy. Cadian knows that Krugs are likely gone or being contested. Again, so far so good for TSM side, and I think Team Liquid building slowly, farming up. Where Team Liquid's first point of attack is, because just like we've talked about in our first series, they've got a lot of priority, which means they have a lot of ability to do things first, and basically they throw the first rock almost every time, right? And TSM are the ones that are defending and the ones that have to show they can dodge or shield those rocks and keep scaling. So we haven't seen it yet. The first attempt was to threaten a turret dive top or take Krugs. Those Krugs were defended. TSM still happy to be on the back foot, but with this much priority, TL should have many options and many areas to attack. If they do that well with where the meta is at, that should definitely be possible. Wait, why didn't Code Day go through? What happened here? Oh, that's unlucky, man. That's definitely unlucky. I don't even know what analogy works for this. This is like you're meeting a girl for a date at the train station and the subway station door closes just as you're about to get there. Feels bad. Oh, you hate to see it. I thought their love was pure, but apparently not. And again, the reason why I don't feel linearly about things like lost at draft is that, you know, TL are pushing in lanes, right? We're seeing a lot of lane pressure, but we're not seeing turret plates. Again, it's only 5 minutes, but, you know, no turret plates have been taken. TSM's picking up farm. Sejuani's camp for camp with Olaf. For now, TSM at 5 minutes 40 are winning this game with a draft that ostensibly has been called awful by every quarter. Because just because you can push the minions in first and back first doesn't mean you're actually gaining game-leading advantages, right? You're just pushing. Pushing is something that gets you killed in solo queue. It's kind of one of the hardest things I have to explain to newer fans or newer viewers who kind of played the game but didn't watch the pro game is when you explain to them priority, they say, oh, that means you push faster than the enemy and get the minions to their turret first. And you're like, yeah, that's what it means. But they say, but when I push the minions, I end up getting ganked a lot. And that's something actually you have to bridge between kind of people who are new to pro, is the idea that that's actually the ability to push first to combo with your teammate that you're on comms with or with your jungler who you're pinging to is not innate. Like, you need to kind of make something of the ability to push. You need to be able to translate the ability to push into a lead somewhere else. And that's not an innate kind of game thing. It's something you learn to do. It's like playing with your allies and pushing forward through that. So just the simple fact that you can push first matters and doesn't matter. Like, if you're only pushing first and you're not actually taking map objectives or denying resources from the enemy, it's not a thing anymore. It's not an advantage. It's just something that happened. But it's just, yeah, it's one of those things. Speaking of pushing and dying, so how did this happen? So Olaf hasn't been spotted in forever. Again, the disadvantage of pushing lanes, you have no idea where the enemy jungler is. They have almost perfect knowledge of if Sejuani is topside or not between the two control wards with the river access and the deep access. It's not a Predator Olaf, it's Conqueror, of course, but ward is put in, of course, instantly controlled. Olaf's already there, and Broken Blade thinks he has more time and greeds for pushing the lane. This is really well coordinated by TL. When is Olaf coming topside? That's what I need to see here. Very rarely do you see this play happen. If you're prepping as TSM against TL, you say, okay, you can get away with scaling. That's kind of one thing I already put forward. What I want you guys at home to notice is, at 6 minutes in, a carry versus carry matchup, Smithy's actually making his first meaningful gank on the top side. And it's one of the reasons that Team Liquid have faltered in the past is their insistence, especially with champions like Vladimir, for drafting laners that need help and then never actually going there. TL actually subverts TSM's prep and actually go top. Like, Impact has the lowest jungle proximity of any player at MSI, for example. Like, he never gets jungle help. And this is a really good gank timing. Smithy's both just out of vision of the immediate spot of vision the Trinket Ward put down for Broken Blade, and there for an initial gank. So this is actually really unexpected start of the snowball here from Team Liquid. So that's already, all right, our prep was wrong. They're willing to play differently. That's where you're like, this is going to be an interesting game between TL and TSM. Gets a nice lead in the top. So I guess the first turret play of the game, because obviously they were able to push in from there. So while it's easy for you to say Broken Blade's overextended, what is he doing? He's trying to have one point of pressure on the map, and he's just not respecting a gank timing. But this is good too. Smithy has jungle camps up, but look, invading around priority. Good to see this from TL. This has been a good kind of 2-minute passage from Team Liquid, and again, we're seeing what priority can do. First 6 minutes, not much. The last two moves, the blue buff steal and also the top lane gank, have been pretty inspired. And the other advantage of priority is any reverse moves, because the moment your blue buff is stolen, the correct move usually is go and invade the enemy blue buff. Just like at level 1, if you see 4 people come into your bot side jungle, go invade their top side jungle. You know they're not going to have 4 people defending it there. But the timestamp there is relevant. If you see 4 people invading, then you're like, oh crap, we should invade. It's time, right? It's time lag. You have to go and match them on the other side of the map. It takes more time. You're more likely to be caught, or your attempt is more likely to be seen transparently because you're doing it second. So TSM do walk up, but Azir leaves lane, and that's already conspicuous. It's a certain timing. Impact knows to leave the lane. So all they can do is get topside vision. In this case, even just topside spotting. They can't take the blue buff because that's not a reality of their draft. So 2 good moves from TL have now gotten them meaningful leads for the first time this game. So far you're saying, okay, they are able to make the priority work in a way that we weren't necessarily for sure certain they could. Good defense here. If you notice, Sejuani's coming bot side anyway, but very quickly, the moment that Sylas is off the map route, goes straight down the minion wave, does the Sejuani in order to protect for a turret dive, because turret dive becomes pretty straightforward option for TL here. They chunk out Core JJ, so suddenly he can't turret dive as easily. Sejuani's in the area. And if you're going to play the scaling comp, you need to make moves like this, where you're predicting enemy turret dives and you're coming toward them off. TSM need time. They want 2-item Ezreal to bridge them to the point where Azir just is going to be a teamfight god and Aurelia can 1v1 both Kennen and Sylas. That's the theory behind the TSM comp. And if you're not ahead of the jungle pathing there, if Sejuani is not ahead and in position and you get turret dived, chance of that happening is almost nil. So that move there is a very standard one from the Sejuani, but I want to point out to it very clearly to show you that it's TSM knows the scenario they're in for themselves, and they're trying to manage it as best as possible. Like a 1,400 gold lead is definitely not do or die in this game. 2 more turret plates is nice, though. Oh, double lift. Let's watch this play. We talked about how we thought that Arcadian would be playing bot side this game in spite of how much synergy there is between Aurelia and Sejuani. And that's why we were thinking about the Sivir play. Let's watch this play how it happens bot side. So Arcadians are initially on a recall. Do they see Olaf at all? They never see Olaf until after the play has started. Core JJ blown up. And you'll see this quite a bit because we're going to see Xayah Rakan picked a lot. Right now, Xayah Rakan priority is right up there, like how it was maybe, 2017. And Rakan is really squishy. Got some base stat buffs, but always going to be positioned within grand entrance range of you. Therefore, just blow him up is one way to go, especially if it's an Ignite Rakan rather than a Cleanse Rakan like we might see in the LCK. So instant burst down. One person is dead. Oh, stun interrupts this. So, see how this play actually comes together. Like, what comes first? They have TP advantage topside. So it seems like TL is happy to play to the Rakan walking up because they have TP advantage. So on the simple point, TL's play is smart. But Broken Blade interrupts the TP, and it's 1-for-1 very, very quickly with both supports down. However, it's a Conqueror jungler whose cooldowns are almost irrelevant on his Q compared to a Sejuani with ult down, which is very, very different, and Aftershock down as well. So let's watch how the rest of this plays out. Trying to work out how much to reward and how much to chastise here, because what happens is pretty clear, right? So Smithy starting to disengage, huge health bar disadvantage, walks away. He's walking towards turret. The minions start to come in, and that's why Sven takes the angle that he does. He's afraid that he's going to miss Mystic shots because the minion wave is there, but then it ends up being his undoing because the double Blade Caller guarantees a double kill. This doesn't end up being a super high-level play from Double Lift, but they contrive to put themselves in a really weird spot laning-wise and still lose out 3 kills for 2 after it was the first kill onto the Rakan. So, pretty hard one to talk about in terms of super in-depth. He ordered a minion. All right, let's watch the autoing patterns here just to make sure we didn't miss anything. The BM here is good. I thought maybe he lost some vision. He didn't. Well, double lift having fun here. Nicely done. Oh, the item breakpoints here are going to get into a really awkward spot. Ooh, Pro View. Let's watch the Pro View play. Ah, the intentional stop moment. Oh, wait, do I have to take the stream down now? That was Pro View. So we're in a really... So now you ask me, where are we at in terms of TSM trying to maintain a scaling comp against Team Liquid? We liked it for the first bit of the game. Now we've hit a different point, and the evaluation changes because suddenly Xayah is massively online from a 3v3 that TSM didn't need to take. At this point, Xayah got Essence Reaver and Boots too from that finish and has a huge bounty and is also up 28 CS. And that's more from laning mistakes than draft. Like, this is not a draft. It's not Xayah getting a predictable 3-kill, 350 bounty over Ezreal. It's more that TSM saw a fight they could win in. They didn't know where Olaf was, tried to make a proactive move when they're the scaling comp, and gave up 3 kills. So this is now suddenly an area where, again, Double Lift is unpredictably strong, but that's not because they took, the scaling comp or not. This is just actually just gameplay from TSM where they made a mistake bot side. Good really early TP from Jensen. Wait, did they get any plates? Oh no, they missed the plates. What a disaster. Oh no. What happened mid lane for the TP to happen? So Azir got pushed in, and that meant that even though Azir had vision, there was no way to interrupt the TP. This is almost a solo, a kill and 3 plates. But Jensen's TP is actually really, really good. Let's see Jensen's POV of this play. He pushes in and is roaming down. What does he see in lane when he makes the TP decision? All right. He makes the TP decision purely defensively. It's definitely not to win a 2v2. It's to stop this from being a huge advantage, TSM. It's actually a really good teleport. Because it means that all the time spent on the Rift Herald, which would have been a nice movement back towards TSM getting more gold in the game, is for naught. And it subverts a lot of the advantages that were happening there. So, there you go. We wondered when TSM would go top lane with the synergy between Sejuani and Aurelia. It's later than expected, but it was to get a very big cash-in, a kill, and multiple turret plates should have come out there. But it's a really good teleport from Jensen. Like, defensive teleports are often pretty hard to do in this meta because you can't cancel them anymore. We often talk about one of our very basic caster points is that Shen ults just to save someone are almost always wrong. You want to use them proactively. That was just a defensive teleport that was the exact correct time. Watching this play in mid. Because that should have been the gold answering for bot lane turret going down. In the meantime, while this play was happening, even before this play had happened, the 2 turret plates that were up were standing gold, and TSM was going to answer it by getting the Aurelia further ahead. And then the Aurelia, like we mentioned, shapes up really well against Sylas and Kennen in a side lane later. Instead, if you look at the bottom of the map, Zion Rakan pushed down the turret. No turret plates go the way of TSM, and it actually grows this gold lead in a pretty big way. So TSM are only losing more, like 109 CS now in the Ezreal lane bot side. And as Azir goes back to mid lane, a 3,800 to 4,000 gold lead has grown on and piled on from the defensive teleport being really on point from Jensen. So no answering gold, no closer to Aurelia being able to match in side lanes really well, and that just means extra gold to the team with priority in TL. And suddenly, Bjergsen's too far up in the middle of mid lane. If the top lane turret had gone down and it was about the pushing there and some vision had been retrofitted into the enemy blue, then there would have been TSM having control of somewhere and TL having control of the bot side. Because TL is definitely taking bot side control. You can see the 3 control wards and a cannon roaming up from the bottom side. That was always going to happen, but it was supposed to be in trade for TSM taking control of the enemy blue side and the top side of the map, or the top river. Instead, if you look, TSM actually has control of nothing. Their only vision is on their own blue buff as a kind of defensive spot for Broken Blade, who's still going to have to overextend pretty wildly to get to a minion wave. And Azir doesn't know what's above him or what's below him, apart from the fact that Xayah is on the minion wave. So, getting ganked by Rakan, yes, no? No idea for Bjergsen. Where's Kennen at? Didn't see Kennen for, better part of 10 seconds. So, again, the flow on effective map control that was lost by TSM is big here because it's Sejuani ult, start it, into impact coming through. And they're able to come from so many different directions, TL, because League of Legends is a question of what is your responsibility. And in this map state, if you ask me what are the responsibility of TL's different waves, like Xayah doesn't have any worry pushing out one more wave in top. So Rakan actually, his responsibility is whatever he wants to do. The mid laners are clearing minions within vision of each other, so they're pretty straightforward. Kennen's already pushed in bot side, so Kennen's responsibility is, again, whatever he wants. And Olaf is resetting from base and probably going to get his mid laner blue buff soon. So TL, because they have the team that pushes first, they actually have a lot of freedom to make plays here, whereas TSM are catching minion waves or on the back foot or trying to set up defensive vision. TL already have that vision in place. And it just means that Bjergsen gets taken down very easily. And moments like this is where the scaling comp should be really worried, because if you can't point to somewhere that you own as a team, that's the bridge too far where you're very unlikely to ever get in a position to be able to fight back. You're outnumbered because your mid laner is dead, so you're going to lose mid lane turret. Doesn't matter that Azir had TP up. The Aurelia's, pushing in one minion wave bot, but she doesn't have any vision in order to actually get turret damage down. So that means 2 turrets to 0. Map control and the turn from PapaSmithy, from the moment he got the successful gank up top side, is actually TL playing faster tempo than I'm used to. TL had games like this in spring season, but they also had games where they really misunderstood where they were strong and where they were weak, especially when they were playing around an Impact Vladimir or something like that. This actually shows a lot more understanding than some of those games, and it feels like kind of an outcome after MSI. How did Olaf even get here? Olaf just walks in and they get the kill. Okay. Broken Blade alone. Got nothing to work with. He dies. And plays like this are when your scaling comp has gone wrong. There's a lot of missed skill shots and stuff here, but let's talk about what happens. Broken Blade's pushing. He's very greedily pushing because he doesn't have a lot of vision, just has a bit of river vision. And then, gets all-ined by Olaf. It happens. Watch the response from the rest of the team and how long it takes for people to join. The first TP is actually from Ezreal. And it's when already Broken Blade is very unlikely to live. Azir comes in for the second teleport. He's the second person to go in. And Bjergsen's hard engaging, trying to get onto a Kennen with Flash. Ezreal doesn't even have Iceborne Gauntlet yet. What you're seeing here is what happens when a scaling comp loses control, and then you're making just reactive plays. Like, TSM can do a lot of things later in the game when it's 5v5 in the mid lane and you're just putting down vision and getting people with the Glacial Prison. If it hits, you go in. If it doesn't, you don't. Buying time with the Azir. Azir should only be going for aggressive plays like you see in this clip, the Azir sec plays, when you're way ahead, not when you're 5,000 gold behind. This is a desperation double TP from TSM after some of their mistakes very recently. And then just, again, it looks comical, and you look at this, and you're like, they're not doing very much damage. Lulz, Ven, I remember what he did in that final. But what's the bigger takeaway for me is that they made some straight-up mistakes to TSM. Remember, this game went faster after they botched the bot lane dive, and Smithy made some nice aggressive plays on the enemy jungle, and both of those happened around the same timestamp. And that's where the scaling comp is a no-no. That's where it's not okay, is when you're making mistakes and how you're going to get to this late game fantasy and the enemy team's doing the right thing. As long as you're not doubling down, if one of those is happening, there's a chance. But when both of those are happening, you defensively double teleport after your Aurelia is already dead and then give up further kills. That's what happens. And that's where suddenly you're like, oh, this isn't going to work out. Oh, you can fast forward through this. No Miramana transform at 17 minutes. Ezreal with Miramana in mid lane and Galio patrolling is kind of the minimum standard here for TSM. Even 4-1. Like 4-1 for TSM is so... this is a beautiful 4-1 comp. Because Ezreal goes in early with his cheap items. Azir builds up AP and the Natural's Tooth. And then Aurelia just kills Kennen or Sylas in a side lane. That's for sure what TSM wanted to do. And set up defensive macro around that. But that sort of predictable gameplay here is so hard in a game like this now. It's fallen away too far because of TSM's mistakes. Like, TL have been solid at snowballing in kind of a smarter way than perhaps they have in previous games, but they haven't been like worlds above what they usually do. But TSM's mistakes on execution now make the game look like this. Like, it's a 4-1 comp, and sadly, Broken Blade is being grouped at with his team. Already a surefire sign that things are going wrong. You never want Aurelia in the 4. You want Azir Ezreal as the 2 carries involved. No control of their blue side jungle. Smart snowballing from TL. They just want to make this game, make the enemy team as accountable as possible. Like that Wit's End we were talking about, the real break even for Broken Blade, like, he's a long way away from a Wit's End. They've already lost 2 inner turrets before he has 2 items on the Aurelia. Now TSM saying, well, we want to defend Baron if possible. It's spawning in a minute. Because now you're a scaling comp that only controls raptors, krugs, the minion wave when it hits your inner turret, or the carcass of your inner turret, because obviously the turret's dead. Like, so many people are overextended here trying to defend just the bare necessities of 20 minutes into the game. Huh. And double if randomly ends. What does double if know? He knows Silas is not with him. His Rakan goes for a walk topside. Wait, no, that's not double if. It looks like double if. It looks like a Xayah, but it's actually Cannon. Cannon randomly. Impact randomly ends. My apologies. So Cannon walks up. Impact knows his duo lane's not there and Silas not there and has no idea where the enemy is. Oopsies. Okay. How many flashes was that? Okay. See, these are the sort of moves you usually make when you're a scaling team. Is you make moves like this where you try to defend somewhere and you wait for the proactive team to look for a play. Like the proactive team has been so used to kind of having their way with you because they've just been able to push in minion waves, take free objectives. They just took 2 inner turrets. And in the proactive seat, that usually accelerates mistakes. Like, it's not uncommon to make mistakes when you're ahead because the enemy is so often being like, yeah, okay, you get that one. Yeah, okay, you get that one. That you're not always ready for when they want to pick a fight. Because it's always the kind of mind game of if the enemy team that's scaling picks the wrong fight when they're behind, they just lose the game, right? Straight up. That's usually what happens. Instead, Impact thinks he's fine to walk up, but it's a good call by Smoothie to engage this one. They completely destroy the cannon when Rakan was in no position to react, and they even chase on to Smithy. So in a different game where TSM hadn't made earlier mistakes, this might keep them, again, within gold parity at 20 minutes, not still struggling to be 7,000 gold behind in gold. Jensen's going to push up, passive block onto the top turret. Like, that's a too little too late, unfortunately. From a perspective of Smoothie, does he know? Now, he knows that Silas is not there. Does Silas have teleport? He knows Silas is not there, but has teleport. Let's watch out what else he knows. When does he last see Rakan and Xayah? So Xayah's on a minion wave. Incomplete information on how close Xayah is. Can be very confident Rakan's not going to be there because Rakan's too far away. So I think Smoothie has enough information. Now, is it to some degree a risk? Yes, it always is. But that was very unlikely to be the enemy team all in position to collapse after Smoothie flash. Like, this was a good flash from Smoothie. Like, you're definitely taking a controlled risk there, but I think you're making the right one if you're Smoothie. Second item is probably the biggest moment to happen here. TSM need a way to get Banshee Veil and a second item onto the Aurelia. It seems like Wit's End is not going to happen this game because it's probably not going to be able to silent. Probably has to team fight, and Sterex gives you more in a team fight than the Wit's End would provide. So it seems that's the way Broken Blade's going to go. I know the moment you say that out loud, it's grouping Aurelia, but some ships have sailed already after how the early game started. Now Team Liquid's on the, we don't want to give up red side control. We don't want to lose Baron. TSM just don't want to lose Baron here. That's kind of what their next fight should be for. They aren't really in a position to fight for anything else with inner turret down in mid and bot lane. Banshee Veil bought, so okay, something for the Azir. Not a lot of magic resist by any means on the enemy side. Cadian's so apprehensive about dying. Compare this to how Santorin played the vision play in our first series. Sweeps the ward, waits a long time, has vision above him, sees Core JJ, waits that out a long time. Only when Sven is walking up with him does he clear the ward. That's good defensive ward clearing here. So, I mean, at least Arcadia understands where he's at in this game. Like, it feels weird to be inspecting things so small as this, but at the end of the day, after their mistakes, all TSM can do is not give over Baron and try to get minion waves where they can. They see what they assume is a full reset. They walk up and clear control wards. In case you're wondering why they don't do any turret damage here and they go to contest this vision, when they spot the vision, TSM understands that yes, they can do some turret damage to mid, but they probably can't clean it. If they do actually overextend and clear this mid lane outer turret, they would have to full recall because they wouldn't be able to go and contest a vision. They'd know the enemy is out on the rift, and they'd have to full recall or contest enemy champions standing in control wards around Baron. And if they full recall and shop, the enemy can just rush Baron. So you have to contest vision here over doing mid lane chip turret damage like you might in solo queue, because honestly, if you don't make the very clear early call to go contest the control wards on Baron, you probably never get near them and just lose the Baron anyway. So it's the right call here as a simple rule to go and contest vision every time. Get down 1 control ward, 2 control ward. Can't get the 3rd one, as we see. Ooh, double F gets the red buff steal. And this is the problem. When we talk about vision wars in pro games a lot, we talk about vision exhaustion. So TSM put everything down they had to be able to push through mid lane, and then they used that time to go clear the control wards and got 2 of them. But we already knew, and they knew, that Team Liquid had just freshly shopped with their new control wards. And if you look at the state of the infantries right now, 2 control wards on Kennen, 1 on the Olaf, 1 on the Xayah, 1 on the Rakan, and TSM only has wards on Aurelia and Ezreal. So they have to recall to start to get vision, and they couldn't completely clear out Team Liquid's vision before that recall happened. So now your issue is the enemy team is cashed up, they have a ward lead, and if they start the Baron right now, you never even get to go buy a vision. So this is the time you start Baron. There's a ward spotting them. It doesn't even matter, though, because TSM still have to approach with only so much information. They lose the Baron, as we saw. Let's watch this a bit slower. They never got view on the health bar, so there's actually no real chance they lose out on Baron here, Team Liquid. Ends up being a free Baron. The weight of vision is always something that we don't talk about a lot, but I think the weight of vision in moments like that should be pretty clear. It's not exactly the explosive team fight that people are hoping for when it comes to game-changing points, but even though TSM chose the perfect time to walk up and contest vision, the power of the shop and the vision lead from Team Liquid still got them the Baron. Can't run 4-1 anymore because now the Baron buff trivializes how strong Aurelia is. So from this point onwards, like, this is the tragedy, right? If this is the point you remember of the game, you look at it and you're like, okay, TSM have no real way to get back into the game. And all they can do is wait because of their draft. And that's true. But a lot of comps in this, if they get to this scenario, are in a similar boat. And I guess what I wanted to show from this review is that the early game poor decisions and missed executions from TSM and the bot side actually were a lot more relevant than the draft that people didn't like. I think TSM's mistakes on execution were more significant than any sort of implied failure in construction. And as I was kind of outlining, Team Liquid is the sort of team that I take a more scaling approach against based on how they play out the game. Whether it gets into this scenario or not was more in TSM's hands than perhaps their fans who want to focus on the draft might beat the drum off, I guess I would say. No point to slow this part down because this is just the full court collapse from here. Now it's 10,000 gold. Now the second, third items for TSM are never coming. Now, if you want to argue this is the meta of all time where scaling is the worst approach, I think games like this should also support that view. Like, scaling is way harder than it was in the past. You cannot just wait it out. Again, it goes back to the famous comments we've talked about with the removal of vision really hurting Korea's chances. It's much harder to steady your ship after you make a mistake. So your solutions are force the enemy to make more mistakes or make no mistakes yourself. And if you go scaling, your contract to win is make no mistakes. And TSM made mistakes. So whether it's on the execution or whether it's on just play aggressively, I think from fan to fan you'll hear different things. But I'm just watching the end here. 10,000 gold lead hype. Smacking them with your wallet, as Atlas would talk about. I enjoyed watching that. I know for some people it would have been very slow because it wasn't about the action here, but again, my first thought looking at the draft that Team Liquid took and TSM took was this could work against Team Liquid. In the end, it didn't, and I think TSM made some mistakes there, but I hope people understand that it was a little bit more technical than perhaps just lol lost at draft. As most games are. Most of the time, it's more than meets the eye when it comes to draft. And I'm just as guilty as everyone else of looking at some drafts on a team that lost and be like, well, I didn't like the draft better next time, and putting it out of your mind, because it's usually a deeper thing. And to me here, some of the decision making around when the jungler hit bot lane, the proactive gank they made, and from there other small mistakes was more significant to me than the draft overall. But definitely some reality that TSM will take a different tact coming into week 2 of the LCK. For Team Liquid, I thought Smithy snowballed a good start, better than I might have expected given some of the previous games we've watched from them, so that part there was good. It wasn't perfect. They still had the impact and Smithy 2 deaths that were very avoidable, but otherwise, very, very easy clear from the end of that game. So we'll call it there for Team Liquid versus TSM. Gonna take another short break, definitely get some water, it's getting a little bit hot in here. Answer some questions, and final review of the week will be Team Liquid versus Echo Fox after the break. So thank you very much for watching my game number 2 VOD review between Team Liquid and TSM. We'll be back very shortly.